And our first story is on politics. Now, the governing New Patriotic Party is insisting that there's no voter suppression in the ongoing registration exercise. Addressing a news conference in Accra, the chairman of the party, Freddie Blay, says the data available from the Electoral Commission does not support claims of the opposition NDC on the matter. He is therefore inviting Ghanaians to avoid mistaking what he calls genuine intentions to properly police registration centers as an attempt to disenfranchise bona fide Ghanaians.
Do not be misled by John Mahama's Hate for Vote campaign. John Mahama has resorted to this old bogus propaganda trick used by empty and desperate tyrants of decades gone by because he has no policy response to Akufo-Addo's social interventions and economic policies. Ladies and gentlemen, Akufo-Addo has been instrumental in maintaining peace and tranquility throughout the country, including in Dagbon, since he came into office. He will be, and I insist with sincerity, be the last to want to disturb the peace in this country. We must completely and totally reject Mahama's Hate for Vote campaign and look at the real facts. Ladies and gentlemen, is it true that Votarians are really being disenfranchised? I wish I could not be asking this question, but since he started it and is going around with it, let's now go to the facts. The facts say no. They are not. At the end of phase 5 of the registration exercise, after 30 days, 816 and 69 people have registered in the Volta region alone as against the 2019 regional votes register.
Mr. Freddie Blay says the NDC has run so far out of options, and the reason it has had to resort to arguments of ethnic disenfranchisement to save its face. He accuses the leader of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, and the whole party of employing inferior communist tactics to undermine the Electoral Commission's voter registration exercise.
Our brothers and sisters of the NDC are desperately trying to undermine the simple, civil, and peaceful exercise of voter registration into one of ethnocentrism through outright fabrications, needless exaggerations, and old-fashioned fear-mongering propaganda tactics, and if I will say with your permission, inferior communist tactics. It has not been very smooth, I must say. The Electoral Commission, EC, the arbiter with sole authority to determine elections, has had to prove its mettle over and over again these past few months.
Meanwhile, the opposition NDC also presented what it describes as hardcore evidence of alleged acts of intimidation and brutalities meted out its supporters in the ongoing registration exercise within its strongholds. Now, some of the videos presented by the NDC captured some military and other security personnel from the Ghana Immigration Service, for example, allegedly harassing drivers in Keta constituency, while some of the military men were also seen at some registration centers questioning some prospective voters. Now, the party also accused the Akufo-Addo-led government of encouraging voter suppression through ethnocentrism. The National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Gyamfi, insists President Akufo-Addo and his government are making frantic efforts to disenfranchise non-Akans who are deemed to be supporters of the NDC.
President Akufo-Addo, who is a sponsor, promoter, and ultimate beneficiary of the ongoing electoral-driven ethnocentrism and tribal bigotry, has failed to take any action to nip these disturbing acts in the bud. We in the NDC are not surprised by the posturing of President Akufo-Addo towards this rather worrying trend, because this has always been his plan. This is why he has chosen to see nor hear no evil about any infamy or injustice to the Ghanaian people once it advances his electoral fortunes. The media space is awash with incontrovertible evidence and pictorial evidence on these happenings. Yet, as usual, President Akufo-Addo has chosen the path of deception and dishonesty to throw dust into the eyes of unsuspecting members of the public, to conceal the evil tribalistic voter suppression agenda he is supervising. We have also taken note of a labored effort by the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwo, to attempt to justify some of the ethnocentric events we have witnessed in the ongoing registration exercise. The Defense Minister's ludicrous attempts to explain away the sheer use of brute force and physical assault by certain elements in the once revered Ghana Armed Forces to prevent some legitimate Ghanaians from taking part in the ongoing registration process only goes to reinforce President Akufo-Addo's attitude of see no evil, hear no evil, once it advances your electoral fortunes.
Moving on, government has also moved to address perennial flooding problems in Koforidua, the eastern regional capital. The town has been in the news in the past for deaths and loss of property, especially during the rainy seasons. President Akufo-Addo, as a result, cut short for the commencement of the construction of the Nsukwao Basin Drainage Project, which he says should address the perennial problem.
The consequence of this flooding led to, in 2016, at this place, the MC. In 2018, both of them in 2019, so this flooding has been as well, and for that reason, we have been on board to ensure that increasing it to contain the water, then protect the embankment so that when it rains, will not fail or collapse. Then we also ensure that the pipes that will take the water into the pond, that which we see settle, and the water that will release gradually into the...
Now, 14 of the 16 regions will benefit from these programs. The 25 municipal assemblies are spread across the 14 regions. The other 2 regions will benefit from the next phase of the project. 4 municipal assemblies may benefit. Lower Manya, Krobo Municipal Assembly, Brim Central Municipal Assembly, Ebuakwa South Municipal Assembly, and a New Drabin South Municipality. The Nina no Titu the woman say, Sike, a Babaye Juma Municipal Assembly for Ankasa, a yisa and Nune won assem here. To say drainage as some walk Koforidua. Municipal Assembly in the catch the Hajia. So way and a year ya same here teach you. It is always can be my year. Yen for Sikano and yes I did. And no and then there ye baby pound to my na saa so na maya medani ye be koswaye de hia amanfo IPEP Ghana Cities Support Program constantly the things that matter to local people in their communities. That is what the Akufo-Addo government is coming to resolve.
Now we have to bring you back to Accra. Now there was chaos at the Awoshie Mangwase area in Accra as angry youth of the community protested faulty traffic lights, which they claim have been neglected by authorities. Now it took the intervention of the military and police to unblock roads after it had been sealed all morning. Residents say the lack of traffic lights there has also resulted in many accidents and at least a death of one every week. They spoke with Joy News PhD Nanaya Osafo.
At Awoshie Mangwase at the Enyasotom Ablekuma North constituency, where, as you can see behind me, quite the ruckus, several military personnel and police detected within the vicinity. It's all about the angry youth of the area who this morning, as at the hours of 8 a.m., staged a demonstration over anger of the faulty traffic lights within this constituency and vicinity. According to them, scores have been killed here, with one gentleman being knocked down by a vehicle yesterday due to faulty traffic lights. I'm going to speak to some of the residents here on how exactly all this went down.
This traffic light behind me has got spoiled for the past 3 years or so. We call on all the authorities to come fix the problem. Those calling for on deaf ears. For the last week alone, I can knock 3 people here. And that is why I want to register our displeasure to the authority. That those of them who are empowered to come and fix the light, to come and fix the light. And if they don't come to fix the light, we will make sure they will not rest. As we are talking, the street light have not been working for at least, yes, this the traffic light and the street light. It has not been working for years. As for the traffic light, it's 3 years now. The street light there in Accra, it hasn't been on even one day. The MP came, we hoot at him, we hoot at her. We don't want her. This traffic light, look, human beings are removing it. Not that they will come and remove it, can we hit a person? I was every year, right now he's not running again. Even we vote her off.
So we decided to organize a vote just to show our grievances with a placard. Suddenly the police just flood me with water. Can it? See. You see that the guys, they don't want to go? I'm done. Send message to them. Bruh, about 4 years, I can't count the number of people who have died here. I'm one. My name is Yaforikisi. People know me at the I'm one of the who organized this a peaceful demonstration just to advertise our grievances.
Okay. And as you can see at the moment, the vehicles across various lanes, there are 3 lanes here. There's the first lane, that's the second one that you can see in your shot, and there's also the third one there, leading all the way down to Pokwase. Initially, all these roads were blocked by the intervention, but by the intervention of the police and the army, that's the security forces, the roads have now been cleared for vehicles moving both in and out from Awoshie Mango.
And talking about roads, we have to take you back to all the efforts that President Akufo-Addo had been making. Because 2.5 years ago, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, cut sword for the Apoampoho Edumbansu Road. No work has started on that stretch. Now, the Member of Parliament for the area, Alex Kofi Ajekum, is now warning residents in the area, will soon begin agitations if nothing is done about the stretch of road. He is also lamenting even an intervention by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to get a contractor to move to site has also so far yielded no results.
almost about 2.5 years ago, His Excellency the President came to cut the sword for Apongwan and Poho Bensu Road. The contractor who was given that road refused to come to site, so the contract was abrogated. Now, by the intervention of the Vice President, the road had been awarded through the Koku routes. A new contractor has been given that project alongside other routes in my constituency, specifically Eshiem Bensu Road and then Apimenyim Potogina Adanse Edan Road. But what my constituents had been agitating is the fact that at what point will the stakeholders involved take it so seriously for a president to cut the sword for a commencement of a road? 2.5 years, all technocrats and people involved go to sleep. 2020 is a year of road, as declared by the president. Are they trying to say that all these while, there is that feed dragging just to embarrass His Excellency the President?
Well, we have to end with that story on the Trinibua Senior High School student who protested, even went on rampage about strict supervision of their first written paper by supervisors during the WASSCE period. Now, they also said they will boycott the examination subsequently. And Nana Yaojima, correspondent, had been speaking with the DCE as well as interacting with some of the notable administrators.
Seche Kumawu District Director of Education, Joseph Donko, heads the investigative team. The others are Police Detective Inspector Emmanuel Oponsapon and District Deputy Coordinating Director Gideon Boabin. District Chief Executive Samuel Ade Ajekum says the committee has 1 week to submit its report.
The whole thing centered not only on the invigilators. I think they alleged that one of the teachers was attacked by the headmaster, took the phone and then hit it on the ground. And I believe that they were not pleased with it. I personally also was baffled. What were they expecting that they couldn't get? So I told them that, well, we need to look at that aspect also. But the major issue that confronted me, that I had to overcome, was the paper that they decided not to write. And we were able to right the wrong and then get them back to the classroom.
A viral video captures a female student screaming out orders for distraction because authorities want them to fail in the examination. Her colleagues are either heard shouting in support or seen looking on. The footage of school's dining hall shows furniture toppled over and food scattered on the floor. Club welding male students were then on a march through the streets of Kumawu, headed for District Chief Executive's office. One of them spoke to Insure FM on condition of anonymity.
Some people were denied permission to use the bathroom, even 30 minutes to complete the first paper. One lady had to urinate on herself. 4 people I know were slapped by the headmaster. A teacher was slapped and his phone smashed because he alleged the teacher was trying to get questions for us. We wrote the second paper 2 hours late because of the incident. We started our paper at 3 when every school was done. We had the questions before going into the examination hall. Our friends from other schools sent the questions to us. It took every student less than an hour to complete the 2-hour 30 minutes paper.
Friends from different schools, they are sending me.
Students allege the headmaster smashed an invigilating teacher's phone for no apparent reason, which they find intimidating. The DC says the administration will work with education authorities to resolve the matter appropriately. And according to them, they don't want the headmaster in any of the examination halls from tomorrow when the examination resumes. What are you doing about this?
Yesterday I was with the Director of Education here, and we will not do anything to mar the peaceful atmosphere that we are enjoying currently. So it is in his own interest and then the security of the exams, so that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, he will also be protected.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest as they are on the front and back pages of the various dailies we have in the studio. Do stay with us. And I'm talking about YouTube. You can get us Joy News TV. We're streaming there live as well. Mama, good morning to you.
The way you are in love with Dako Vibes, you should get him to come and perform on the AM
I think so,
one
yeah.
of these days.
And then, is it RJZ?
Yeah.
He was also a member of, or he's still a member of Lamin Gang as well. There are three of them.
I like this vibes.
Yeah, they're good.
Give me a location, like you be on the moon and you give me a location. Joe. Charlie, that's some vibes right there.
Charlie.
Good morning, y'all. Just joining us. This is the AM show. How you all doing? It's the morning after the holiday. I told you yesterday, you go to work today. No excuses. Wake up and go to work. Gifty is joining us. Let's say good morning to Gifty Ando Apia. Miss Gifty?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, good morning.
Is my network better today?
Yeah, I don't know where you slept. I'm not sure you slept home.
I did. Don't worry. I'll soon not be sleeping home, and I'll let you know.
Well, that's a good one. Which papers are you doing, Gifty?
Okay, I've got a number of papers. I don't know how I forgot I was going to do newspapers. Okay, so I have the
Gifty, are you confused? What are you saying?
So
I don't know how that happened. But anyway, let me just go on with the Dispatch newspaper. Okay, hang on for me. Could you guys just start in the studio?
Yeah. Let's do that.
We'll start with the Daily Graphic.
We've got the Statesman, the Observer,
we just start with the Daily
Times, there's the Daily Guide. Yeah. There's the Finder as well. I'm going to just start off with the paper that I have, the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page, sacrifice for national development. Speaker tasked nation. And the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, has called on Ghanaians to draw useful lessons from the sacrifices made by the founding fathers of the country and work together for national development. He said the attainment of Ghana's independence on March 6, 1957 was made possible because of the collective resolve and relentless effort of many frontliners who laid down their lives to liberate the masses. I wonder how many of us actually reflected on this yesterday. We're just enjoying the fact that it was a holiday yesterday. Don't misconstrue border closure, MPP tells NDC, but NDC insists on military withdrawal. So this is what makes you realize, really, apart from the ongoing registration exercise, that the election is just around the corner. Yesterday, the NPP organized a press conference. Later in the day, the NDC also did so. It's just been continuing from what we saw on Monday. So the battle pretty much is still on. The various parties holding their various positions. But this is one that interests all of us. Prime suspect in Kafaba lynching arrested. That headline is on the front page of the paper, but details you find on page 16 in the graphic. The prime suspect in the lynching of the 90-year-old woman, Madam Ikea Mariama Dente at Kafaba in the East Gonja municipality in the Savannah region, has been arrested by the Yeji police in the Bono East region. The suspect, who has been identified as Serena Mohammed, age 40, was arrested in Yeji last Monday night and sent to the Salaga Divisional Police Headquarters and later transferred to the Regional Police Headquarters at Damongo to assist in investigations. The Savannah Regional Police Commander, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Inoke Duchum Bediako, who confirmed this to the Daily Graphic yesterday, said during the interrogation, Serena admitted that She was the one seen in the viral video performing the rites of exorcism on the lynched Madame Dente after pronouncing her a witch. He said the suspect had been charged provisionally with murder and will be put before the Bole District Court today. There's a lot of background about the suspect and then, of course, where we have come from with this very tragic incident. But thank God the lead person, there was somebody advocating that all the persons who were also standing by watching this happen should also be arrested. In the center spread, explore innovative means to market products. JIPA advises arts industry, VRA sensitizes communities to Pualugu Dam project, and then Get Fund open zona office in Kumasi. On the back page, President cuts salt for Koforidua drainage projects. And then the Ministry of Health has received personal protective equipment and medical supplies worth a lot of money from Vamed Engineering in the support of COVID-19. That's it for the Daily Graphic. Roland?
Okay, Gifty, you ready? Right. So we'll hold the fort while Gifty gets ready. So let me look at the Daily Guide. The Daily Guide has on the front page, which killer flashed out of Yeji hideout? We brought that to you immediately. This was reported. Isaac Nonya is always on the beat, and subsequently on other bulletins right here on Joy News will bring you what's the latest this morning as well. And also on the front page, I groomed babies with sharp teeth, and you just have to be watching myjoyonline.com. Particularly Joseph Akablay seemed to be serializing each of the pages that he's been reading from that working with Rollins' book, autobiography, that Professor Kwame Nahoy have written. And we already have had a number of concerns raised. His former colleague in the Rollins administration, Dan Abodapi, issued a strong-worded statement refuting some sections of his book, but look, I just got a copy yesterday. I'll start reading it.
Oh, you got a copy?
Yeah, immediately I saw Joseph serializing it. I said I needed, it's got to be good, because when Manasseh brought that first one, that biography that he wrote about the former president and his administration, John Dramani Mahama, I got a copy as well. It was late. Quite interesting book, but we do have MPP punches Mahama over bigotry. There's also a story about free light and water not for vote, according to the president. He's been going around so far. Nana Otum for secure voters' ID card. That's a good one. They're very symbolic. On the back page, it's all sports. Just quite surprised that we don't have a story on the GFA cars and then Palmer case there.
We are expecting a verdict, and then there wasn't a verdict, and they didn't even explain anything to us after they themselves issued a statement saying that the verdict was supposed to happen yesterday. But then again, Kwesi Nyantakyi's issue is still in that court, isn't it? There hasn't been any decision, so.
We do. Gifty, are you ready? Okay, so the Daily Statement has on the front page, NDC faces implosion as Ahoy's plot Rollins downfall for Mahama. And then we do have Akufo-Addo makes strong case for made in Ghana products. MPP cautions Ghanaians about Mahama's hate for votes campaign, and Ghanaians can attest to my good work, the president says. The president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the back page full of sports, of course. Okay.
All right, let's do the Finder newspaper, front page of the Finder. NPP accuses Mahama of hate for votes campaign in Volta region. Locally assembled VW cars shape Nana Addo's Ghana automobile hub agenda. Potential free trade pitfalls could fuel massive exploitation of Africa. March and April missed revenue targets before ICUMS was deployed in June, according to the GRA. This is something that's been brewing, actually. It's just flowing from, I think, something I read from Monday. This is the Ghana Revenue Authority stating that the deployment of the integrated customs management system is not responsible for the variance in revenue realized in TEMA collection in June 2020. According to the authority, March and April 2020 recorded similar variance at TEMA collection when the system had not even been deployed. This one is in a statement signed by Mrs. Florence Asante, Assistant Commissioner, Communication and Head of Public Affairs of the GRA, blamed the situation on stretched targets. So there's a lot of background to the story in the paper. And then, of course, the Ghana Statistical Service making a survey that they conducted known. So, for instance, 42,000 layoffs, 770,000 suffer wage reductions. Roland Walker has a sit-down conversation with the government statistician. That's on AM Talk right after sport. You want to stay. President Kat sought for 15.8 million Ghana cedis in Soko Basin drainage projects. That's all by way of what's on the front page, the Finder. Let's do the Ghanaian Times front page. Celebration of Founders Day. Speaker eulogizes country's four births. Kafaba lynching case, fetish priest grabbed. President Kat sought for in Soko Basin drainage project. Residents demonstrate against malfunctioning of Awoshi Highway traffic lights. We're back there in the community this morning, but this is traffic lights that's not been working for 3 years, they say, and they're also talking about the street lights. We'll talk about the issue of street lights. Maybe I should also gather a few people so we can... Do
you have street lights in the Eastern region? Your area.
Do we have street lights in the Eastern?
No,
what
sorry,
kind of question is that?
No, in your area, where you live in the Eastern region.
So drive from the...
Sorry, this is wrong. I've retracted the question. Whoever is watching, please.
I'm talking about the Nsawam Road. As in from here, from Kokomlimli.
Oh, that's
drive to Nsawam.
The street light.
Through no, you see the street light, but not functioning. No single lights. And this has been happening for a long time, really.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Gifty's back with us, Gifty?
Gifty?
Yes, I'm back. I'm just a bit sad.
Why? Who died?
No one has died. I don't like all these, internet issues. It makes me feel very ineffective, and ineffectiveness makes me sad.
Gifty, get a good broadband. I think your service provider needs. You need to upgrade your service provider.
Excuse me. Anyway, so do I go on with the dispatch?
Please go ahead. We haven't done the dispatch yet.
All right. So the banner headline for the Dispatch newspaper: focus on 2020 voters register and ethnicity. See more on the back page, they say. And as 4% of Ghanaians vote, okay, so this is the story actually. As 4% of Ghanaians vote on ethnic basis, they put the focus on 2020 voters register and ethnicity. It should be an interesting read. And then there's a story there. It gives you the breakdown of Greater Accra region and the Eastern region and how it all goes. Then Kwame Ahoy on 31st December revolution. That story is on page 4 and 8. And President Akufo-Addo cares for every Ghanaian. One of my favorite women is saying that, Chief of Staff, Madam Opare, Firma Opare is saying that. Then we have the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwo, saying, back your voter suppression accusation with evidence. Mr. Nitiwo is telling former President John Mahama. And then inside this paper, you have a story from by GPCC, that's a Ghana Pentecostal Council, that's saying we stand by Bishop Ajenosare. That story can be found on page 11. I'll take you on a quick journey through that newspaper, and that story is there. So the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, there's a long write-up there about how they back Bishop Ajenosare. I don't know, well, looks like we don't have a lot of time. I was going to read the first paragraph, but let me just quickly move on to the next one. On the back page of the Dispatch newspaper, you have that story, which is on the front page. Then President Akufo-Addo cares. Okay, so essentially a repetition of the stories on the front page. I'm going to go through. Mama V, I think you did the Finder, right?
Yes, I did. I did the Finder in the Times.
Finder already. Let me see. I had the BNFT.
Okay, go ahead with it.
Okay. Well, as you know, right. Okay, I got it. The banner headline for the BNFT: CARES can adversely affect their stock if not properly managed. And CARES is the government intervention, for the COVID intervention to boost the economy. Essentially, Deloitte is cautioning us that it can adversely affect our debt stock if not properly managed. That's always on page 3 of the BNFT. And businesses cut wages for over 770,000 workers, laid off 42,000 people. That's not easy to deal with. When government considers move to reopen air borders, a lot of people are looking forward to this. And CBG supports 7 SOEs, as state-owned enterprises, with a 312 million fund to prevent layoffs. That's great. Answer for the front page of the BNFT. If I go on to the inside of the paper, GEPA moves to increase NTEs with new bauxite bead factory, and government considers move to reopen air borders. You have that story there on this particular page. That's at page 2. And businesses cut wages. Yeah, essentially a repetition of the stories that I told you about in the front page. This must be the back page of the BNFT. Prudential Life funds 3 institutions in COVID-19 relief initiative, and StanChart posts impressive 2019 result honored for excellence. MTN Foundation shortlists 184 students for MTN Bright Scholarship 2020. I think this is it, and you have the other stories, the details of the story that we found on the front pages there, in the inside pages. Mama B and Roland.
Okay, great. Right. Roland, is there another paper that you haven't looked at? Otherwise, we will do the review.
Let's look at our issues. No, let's do our issues. So at least we have some 3 minutes.
So let's look at myjournline.com, and then we can make picks real quick.
Okay, whilst we wait for myjournline.com, before we run out of time, which it looks like we will, I want to wish a happy birthday to Auntie Emma of Cape Coast. She doesn't miss the pulse. She leaves everything. With JBB, I know she pulse. So I want to say a very good morning to him, to her. It's from his son, MC Nana K, and from all her children. Can we do My Joy Online now?
We can, but you have to start paying us. We'll give you the invoice for using the AM show. This is myjoyonline.com. So High Priestess involved in murder of 90-year-old Ekia Dente to appear in court on August 5, which is today. We'll bring you the updates from the court when it happens. Roland?
All right. We have other stories there. Speak against ethnocentrism, lawlessness at registration centers. Sami Jemfi to Ghanaians. And then we have other stories as well. Awoshi residents blocking roads, demonstrating over their faulty traffic lights, which they say sometimes result in fatalities. NDC's quest to sacrifice Ghana's patriotism for political gains. Questionable, according to Makafui Wanya. And then we have Central Tongwe NDC Communication Bureau apologizes for altercation at Della Radio. We have other stories as well. Chunebo Akodia Senior High School student admits getting question papers before examination.
So that's my pick, really. If you click on the story on myjoyonline.com, because it's pretty fascinating that a group of students would protest because they felt their headmaster and the invigilators were too strict on them during the examination. That really shouldn't matter if you're writing an exam, but apparently that was an issue. But it turns out, if you read the story, this latest twist, that one of the final year students has disclosed that they actually saw the paper, the integrated science paper, before they wrote the exam. So they solved it, and it took them about an hour to finish a 2.5-hour paper. And that's because whilst they were demonstrating, other schools were writing the exams. So they got the papers from those schools. Very interesting. You can read that story on myjoyonline.com.
Anyway, I'm sure we still don't have a lot of time, but that's gross indiscipline, which we should not encourage. And of course, there has been this existing power relations between teachers, head teachers, and students. I mean, even to say even to say that you want to, go to the washroom is difficult. If you went to the Ghanaian education system, you understand what I mean. But this increasing sense of indiscipline among students when they feel like we can, just go on a rampage and destroy property, it is so wrong, and we should just condemn it in all uncertain terms. And I think they should be made to pay for the destruction that they've created on the campus.
Well, the school authorities, because yesterday Nana Ajima engaged, and they said they really didn't destroy much. It was just something that a carpenter could fix.
Oh, wow. But I mean, there has to be some sort of punishment. Maybe they should sign a bond to be, to be disciplined and to show respect. But I think that it's just getting out of hand. Of course, like I said, the power relations between teachers and students have not been good. So when it breaks out like this and you get the chance to revolt, then everybody then jumps on it and then they begin to get very indisciplined. But yeah, it's not good.
What's your own pick, Gifty?
I wanted also to add some commentary to this.
On this issue, Roland.
There are other videos of students of other schools who are writing this, who, whether they were protesting, were even maligning the president and calling him names and even calling the administration names because they claimed that they had been sold booklets which were passed or which contained past question papers or past questions.
And somebody promised them that would be what they would see?
Yeah, and they claimed that they had solved from page 1 to the last page, and none of it appeared on the paper that they wrote the first day, which was a written paper. And I thought that, I don't know. I think that as a society, we seem to have failed these students. And I'm not talking about one school. I've seen several videos.
I think they're still young.
Schools.
They're learning. PASCO doesn't mean that's the paper you're going to write.
But see, Mama, how are they learning? And what exactly are they learning? It means that they're learning that I should have a PO. And if I have solved the APO, you must allow me to implement what. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And it is very worrying that our young people are thinking like this. Look, we have a national crisis that we've not been able to solve. We have a problem of having problems of solving problems on paper and never being able to implement it. So for young people to be thinking like this, it is worrying for our future, honestly.
Absolutely. I agree with you guys.
And I'm a bit surprised that it looks like psychologically their mindset or the way they prepared for this examination was only towards a certain confined means of past questions that they had access to. That also limits your ability to be able to broaden the learning scope.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah, so you see, the thing about these people being called, I mean, this particular batch of students being called a Akufo-Addo graduates, and the focus, a little bit of politicization of the entire, this batch, especially because of free SHS. Could it be that this is working on their minds and making them feel a certain level of entitlement? Because I hear some of them even said they will not vote for the NPP if they were not allowed to do what they wanted to do. I'm not really sure if that was in Nana's report, but I heard some of them say that is absolutely bizarre.
Gifty will come back with this particular conversation after in business this morning. So if you can still give us some time, we'll connect with you and talk about this matter and show the videos that Roland's been referring to. But for now, that's it for the review. Kindly go on myjoyonline.com where we have plenty of news. Coming up next is sports. They would explain why there was no verdict yesterday from the arbitration for sports. And whilst we're all waiting for a certain decision with Osei Palmer in the middle of it. Details coming up in sports.
Well, time for Sport here on AM Show. My name is Benedict. It's always a pleasure joining you on this platform. And of course, this morning, a lot to talk about. Fulham are back in the English Premier League. They won their game at Brentford, was at Wembley, but they defeated Brentford. We'll show you highlights of that. Also, I will try and establish why the Court of Arbitration for Sports yesterday couldn't come out with a ruling of the case between Tema Youth owner Wilfred Osei Kweku, affectionately known as Palmer, and the Ghana Football Association. But we have to start from Kumasi, and Nana Amponsan is set to be named new Chief Executive Officer of Asante Kotoko. Now, according to reports, the Fire Rangers president has been endorsed by the board of directors. Well, let's go live to Kumasi and speak to Obusu Bempa Ayala of Insure FM on the latest on this development. Ayala, thanks so much for joining me this morning here on the show. I mean, Nana Amponsah initially, somewhere in June, was tipped to, be named the CEO of the club, and then we heard what happened. Why the sudden change?
Last week, Nana Amponsah, led by the Kotoko board chairman, Dr. Kwame Chey, was introduced as Mensia to the chief of staff. That after all their deliberations and the interviews they've conducted so far, they think he's the right man for the job. So they are coming to introduce him. And if Mensia goes on to endorse that they really accept him as the chief executive, then they will go on to appoint him. So what happened on Monday was that Mr. Jemfi, who is a member of the board and the chairman of Exim Bank, had the green light from Otun for himself, the life patron. And when he announced on the board's platform, as in their digital platform, that they've gotten the green light to go on and select Nana Amponsah to become the chief executive officer, it was good news for majority of the board members who had really, really gone through the process of making sure Nana Amponsah is the right man according to what they were looking for in the CEO. So yesterday there was a board meeting, and after that, because of busy schedule, we had the board chairman, Dr. Kwame Chey, Mrs. Evelyn Isiasare, Alaji Lamin, and Nana Nkobi Ahene, who is also a member of the board, presenting to Mensia that after their meeting today, they are set on Friday to do the big unveiling of Nana Amponsah as the CEO of Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
So it means everything is settled and we are not going to have issues of possibly maybe Nana Amponsah cannot keep secrets and that he will not be given the job?
I think for where we've come to, we've passed all those stages. Yes, there were politics, there were lobbying, there were corporate arguments and all that stuff. At a point in time, Samuel Osei name came in around last week and all that. They've gone through a lot of processes. They feed them to corporate people, but they think Nana Amponsah ticked all the boxes that they are looking for. He comes in as a proper corporate person who also knows football. He has the relationship and the connections. He understands the game, and that he was the perfect fit for them going forward. So I think at this moment, unless a very, very big miracle will happen on Friday, Nana Amponsah will be named as the head of management for Kumasi Asante Kotoko News Board.
Ayala, thanks so much for your time this morning here on the show. So that was Owusu Bempah Ayala of Insure FM giving us the latest in terms of the report coming through that Nana Amponsah is set to be named Kumasi Asante Kotoko CEO. Well, we still stay here on the locals, and pressure and anxiety have been a feeling among the football family since yesterday as they eagerly await for the final verdict from the Court of Arbitration for Sport, that's CAS, on the case between Tema Youth owner Wilfred Osei-Kweku, affectionately known as Palmer, and the Ghana Football Association. Now, the verdict was originally scheduled for July 17, but was postponed by the sports education body. I'm talking about CAS. Osei Palmer took his petition to CAS after his disqualification from the GFA presidential election last year. Well, per the arrangements, the ruling should have been in yesterday, but nothing of the sort happened, and we'll wait to see what happened. But let's get more perspective on this. Lawyer Labi Amwa is joining me on the phone. Lawyer Barbados. Good morning, sir. How are you? Hello, Mr. Labi.
Hello, can't you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Good morning. How are you? It's been a while.
Yes, I'm around. Good morning. How are you too?
I'm fine by God's grace. Thanks so much for asking. Good to hear from you. What could have possibly caused the delay?
Actually, if you think of the delay, it's becoming very frustrating, I know, on the part of Mr. Palmer. Yeah, because especially when a date was earlier mentioned for the return of the arbitral award.
Yeah.
And the date was postponed, and I don't think salient reasons were given why the date was postponed. But it was postponed to yesterday, and I know people were so anxious. And yesterday too, nothing happened. And I don't know from the two parties whether there was any communication from CAS as to why nothing happened yesterday. But then, as for postponement of the communication of the arbitral award, once nothing has been communicated to them in terms of the decision, I don't think CAS has gone so wrong or they have offended any of their regulations.
Okay.
Yes, because if you look at their regulations critically, the award, the arbitral award, should have certain signatures on it, and it should be referred to the CAS Director General, and he has also a right to make some rectifications and also draw the attention of the panel to fundamental issues of principle and other things.
So possibly, so possibly maybe they are going through all this process and...
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, it is something when it comes out, it should be credible. So I think the delay, if they come out with maybe reasons which are so different from what we may be thinking, then we will be in a position to say whether they have done some good or they have done some bad to the whole process.
Okay.
Yeah, so as for the postponement, it's creating a lot of anxiety, but then I don't think it is so much out of place.
Okay. But you know, the other side of the argument is the postponement they communicated to the parties, and that was everywhere. Why this no communication?
Actually, that's why I don't have that information from the FA or Mr. Palmer, which indicates whether they communicated to them or not. But, you know, they have some funny way of doing their things. I think from 12 a.m. Kind of timeline which communication can come in. So maybe at dawn, they might have sent something to them that we will not be aware.
Okay.
If you guys can cross-check from them. If nothing, then it is not too good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, sir. So thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, and very awesome, great hearing from you on a show this morning. So that was Labi Amwa Barbados speaking to us on the show.
Well, it's a Wednesday. Welcome to A Business. Now, there's stiff competition now in the automobile space. Already, big giants like VW are adoring brand new cars at 60,000 cedis. This has left local players like Kantanka get more innovative as they now churn out smaller cars for the mass market. Today on AM Business, we revisit the automobile sector as Charles IT assesses the scramble for market dominance in Ghana's niche automobile market.
It is the dream of every Ghanaian to drive a brand new car. Government has introduced a niche market to not only make this dream come true, but also complement its industrialization and job creation agenda. Events started taking shape in August 2018 when German Chancellor Angela Merkel paid an iconic visit to Ghana for a partnership to have German automobile giant VW establish a car assembly plant in the country.
Here is a business delegation that is very interested in investing more in Ghana. Some of them have already been here for quite some time investing in Ghana. I'm happy to be able to say that we're going to sign 3 memorandum of understanding today, and with us will be companies that are here to sign that agreement. Bosch, VW are just two of them. We will continue to assist you in industrializing your country.
This week, VW outdoored a collection of its newly assembled cars in Ghana with the price pegged at 60,000 cedis for the least. That for a brand new VW vehicle. Alan Tremontian is a trade minister. He played a key role in the compilation of an automobile bill, the first of its kind in Ghana.
What is happening today means a lot for us in our economy. Number one, it is going to help reduce our import bill. Ghana, on the average, has an import bill of over $10 billion per annum. In 2018, our import bill was $12 billion. And our 30 leading imports constitute about 57% of this amount. Just 30 commodities imports. Now, out of these 30, the most significant ones, the top three, is led by the importation of transport vehicles, both passenger and transport goods vehicles.
Never get it wrong, VW is just one of many other automobile giants racing to establish car assembly plants in the country. Suzuki, CFAO and Toyota are among other competitors.
And my mission is to find out next India in the continent of Africa. We firmly believe next growth will come here in Africa, but we need to find out right place to be partnered with the manufacturing and distribution after sales of our vehicles. And Suzuki is partnered with Toyota Tsusho in the continent of Africa. We are working together in 26 countries right now, and we are expanding the number of countries. And we came to know from Toyota Tsusho that the Ghanaian government is planning to introduce new automotive policy. And we heard it from Toyota Tsusho executives who made a visit here last month. So we are highly interested in participating in such an initiative made by the Ghanaian government. We wish to start production here, to expand it and grow it, is our wish.
With 30% shares in Ghana's automobile space, Toyota is up for some competition as it focuses on a local assembly point in the country. Andrew Lamte is head of sales operations of Toyota Ghana.
A lot of responsibility on us to ensure that every Ghanaian who wants to own a vehicle should be able to purchase a vehicle and pick a brand new vehicle. The advantage for every Ghanaian is that picking a brand new vehicle, you are driving a very safe car. Indeed, you are driving a vehicle that you don't have to worry about maintenance for at least the next 3-4 years. So it is very important for us to ensure that we produce vehicles and make the vehicle affordable, we make the vehicle easily accessible for every Ghanaian, and that is what we are committed to doing.
Already, local dealers in second-hand vehicles feel threatened by government's ambitious move for an automobile industry. Eddie Kusi is a second-hand car dealer. He minced no words, jabbing government for going in for international giants.
If you're a government and you are telling me that you are bringing in assembler, somebody to manufacture a car in your country, we have this big car company coming in, and you are telling me that if the company comes in to manufacture a car and he's able to assemble maybe about 2 or 3 brands or kinds, you will allow him, because of the competition, to bring others that they have assembled outside. So it means that if I'm an assembler, I can come here, assemble just 2-3 cars, and bring all the cars that I've assembled somewhere that I don't have market for it, and come and sell them here. And when they bring them, it's going to be free duty for 3 years. So the government is going to lose so big money. And the question is, if we are going to lose that revenue, What are we gaining as a country? And besides that, the automobile people who are in the business now, you are bringing a competitor who is more stronger, coming without paying duty, coming to enjoy our market, and we be getting out of business. So looking at it, it makes no sense.
President Akufo-Addo has been explaining the reasons for his move. To him, opening the space for healthy competition and granting Ghanaians the options to purchase affordable brand new cars are all that matters.
I'm expectant that the brands being assembled in Ghana will not only be affordable, but also be of the highest quality. I assure Volkswagen Ghana, the government will continue to support the company in diverse ways to ensure the sustainability and profitability of this venture in Ghana.
Meanwhile, the Automobile Dealers Union of Ghana is threatening a nationwide demonstration against the government's move. With their jobs on the line, they say they feel shortchanged.
If you're telling me that this is going to create business for Ghanaians, it's a lie. Because you go and see that a big factory has about maybe 10, 20 people, and all the things are robots. All the things are robots. So I don't understand what is going to help the country.
With Ghana's second-hand dealers numbering in their hundreds, disruptions in their supply chain could affect job numbers. Trade Minister Alan Tremantin, at the unveiling of the cars from VW, says jobs are rather going to be created and not lost.
There's absolutely no doubt that this effort of the government, together with the private sector, is going to help us save scarce foreign exchange resources. But it goes beyond that. It is also creating an opportunity for us to earn significant amounts of foreign exchange. And it is the foreign exchange that we earn that will stabilize our local currency. And we know that the global trade in the automobile industry is in trillions. Just across from Ghana, the market that is offered by a country like Nigeria alone is significant. So I believe that under the canopy of the African Continental Free Trade Area, this industry is also going to be a major export earner for us.
We engaged the MD for VW Ghana, Geoffrey Opon-Pepra, who maintained the presence of automobile giant in Ghana will in no way spark a wave of job losses for second-hand car dealers.
Second-hand operators, that there is a lot of things going on, we're not going to take their business. We are open to work with them, and we're going to transfer technology and also knowledge.
As grave competition stares them in the face, Ghana's first indigenous car assembly company, Kantanka, is getting more innovative at this point. In a tweet by the company's CEO, Kojo Safo Jr., showed a picture of smaller economic cars for the mass market. If successful and sustained, Ghana's niche automobile industry can sprint the country into the leagues of nations locally producing vehicles for not just local but also international consumption, a feat that will open up a new contribution to GDP in the long term. I'm Charles Aite for Joy Business.
And that's how the automobile industry looks with this addition. There's more on myjawline.com. We've got an entire business page. Just visit myjawline.com and learn a lot more in the world of business. That's it for AM Business. We do this every Wednesday here on the AM Show. So make a date next week, Wednesdays. Stay with us when we come back on the AM Show. We're talking about the children who are protesting strict supervision during the ongoing WAEC examinations. But we're also talking about some of the comments that some of the students have made, especially when they were disappointed that some past questions that they answered did not appear, at least in the integrated science paper that they wrote on Monday. A lot more in our next conversation. Stay with us.
Seche Kumau District Director of Education, Joseph Donko, heads the investigative team. The others are Police Detective Inspector Emmanuel Opon-Sapon and District Deputy Coordinating Director Gideon Boabin. District Chief Executive Samuel Ade Ajekum says the committee has 1 week to submit its report.
The whole thing centered not only on the invigilators. I think they alleged that one of the teachers was attacked by the headmaster, took the phone and then hit it on the ground. And I believe that they were not pleased with it. I personally also was baffled. What were they expecting that they couldn't get? So I told them that, well, we need to look at that aspect also. But the major issue that confronted me, that I had to overcome, was the paper that they decided not to write. And we were able to right the wrong and then get them back to the classroom.
A viral video captures a female student screaming out orders for distraction because authorities want them to fail in the examination. Her colleagues are either heard shouting in support or seen looking on. The footage of school's dining hall shows furniture toppled over and food scattered on the floor. Club-wielding male students were then on a march through the streets of Kumawu, headed for District Chief Executive's office. One of them spoke to Insha FM on condition of anonymity.
Some people were denied permission to use the bathroom, even 30 minutes to complete the first paper. One lady had to urinate on herself. 4 people I know were slapped by the headmaster. A teacher was slapped and his phone smashed because he alleged the teacher was trying to get questions for us. We wrote the second paper 2 hours late because of the incident. We started our paper at 3 when every school was done. We had the questions before going into the examination hall. Our friends from other schools sent the questions to us. It took every student less than an hour to complete the 2-hour 30 minutes paper.
Friends from different schools, they are sending me.
Students allege the headmaster smashed an invigilating teacher's phone for no apparent reason, which they find intimidating. The DC says the administration will work with education authorities to resolve the matter appropriately. And according to them, they don't want the headmaster in any of the examination halls from tomorrow when the examination resumes. What are you doing about this?
Yesterday I was with the Director of Education here, and we will not do anything to mar the peaceful atmosphere that we are enjoying currently. So it is in his own interest and then the security of the exams, so that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, he will also be protected.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
Okay, so that's the situation from Chinebo Akodia, and that report's filed by our colleague Nanaya Ojima, who's done extensive work following this matter. Well, he explains to us that the school authorities will not will not comment on this matter, but of course the DCE, as we saw him speak to him, commented on it, and DISEC has taken over the investigations of this matter. But this is not exclusive to Chinebo Akodia. We will share some videos that we've come across with you on this whole matter of examination and how some people have solved some past questions they were expecting, apparently, to see those questions in the exam hall, and nothing dropped from the booklets that some allege have been were sold to them, and it looks like they were promised at least that they would see the questions they didn't see, and so they are complaining. I mean, it brings, it introduces a whole different twist to this ongoing examination. Remember when it started, the issue was we're battling with the pandemic. Are the students going to go back? After all that conversation, students did indeed go back. And here we are with fallouts of this ongoing examination. When the videos are ready, we will share some with you. So let's take a listen to this video at least that we got.
20 million, hey, 20 million, 20 million. Halfway, hey, that's fine.
to the president.
Nana, then what you do? You make we solve this book from cover to cover, cover to cover, page to page, English, already, everything. Nana, why? We bore you. You think say we go vote give you, you like that.
Aboy, 20 million. 20 million. 20 million. Hey, Baba. 20 million. 20 million. Hey, 20 million. 20 million. Aboy. Hey, so smile. So smile. Hey, come on.
Adena Ghana for money. Why say you give me book? Government give me books, say me we learn. Now Pasco you go come. Nothing come for the teen side. Nothing come for the teen side. The men so we pay give them to where they send it out, but nothing come. See, Obi any my bossa. Obi any my bossa. Run Obi head dokulu bienu. Ezu. Nana do so wait.
Are you going to vote for Akufo-Addo?
That's my mother.
Your mother again? Break your
Okay, some of the comments obviously disturbing. We apologize for that. But these are some of the videos making rounds, reacting to the fact that they didn't see the questions, at least that they said they were expecting, because somebody had sold some documents to them, at least some past questions that they had solved. And they were expecting to see those past questions in the exam hall. Here's what we know. The examination body, WAEC, has not officially reacted to this. We will bring you, we'll bring you up to speed if there's any reaction from WAEC, at least. The Ghana Education Service has also not reacted. And as I did say earlier, the school, Chenebo Akudia, has also formally not reacted, but we've heard from the DCE. We're going to have some other person's comments on this issue, this current issue. Let's speak to a man that we engaged just last Monday talking about the free SHS. Mr. Kofi Asare is Executive Director, Education Watch Africa. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time again here on the AM show.
Hello, good morning, and good morning to your cherished audience.
Okay, great. We've played back some videos, you know, some final year students of some of the schools reacting to the fact that they didn't see some past questions that they have solved that they were expecting to see in the examination hall, showing their disappointment and saying they will not vote for the president. I don't want us to get into the politics of it, but just the fact that these students were expecting solved questions, that is raising a lot of concerns. What's your reaction to what we've seen?
Yeah, it's quite disturbing gauging the expectation of students as they approach examination. The lots of videos I have seen gives an indication that some students were expecting to go and meet questions that they found in the past questions which the GES procured for them at the examination centers. It looks as if the strategy by GES to spend about 400,000 Ghana cedis to procure and compile past questions of WAEC for the students to aid in the preparation for the examination may have backfired, in the sense that it is the first time we are seeing such an initiative, and where the documents are presented in the form of a textbook, which compiled like a textbook to the students. It gives the student an impression that there's something more to it than just past questions, more so within the context of this politically charged topic of a free senior high school, and how politicians are struggling to make a meaning out of the first result or the first batch, which will appear before elections. Let me also indicate that the intention behind buying past questions for the students was not a bad one, just to ensure that the teachers have the aid they require to prepare the students ahead of the examination. It's not a bad one. But in policy, sometimes you can have unintended outcomes. And so I see that unintended outcomes of the administrative decision to procure past questions for the students has become one that is limiting all their learning, perhaps, towards those questions. And so the students are now learning they are now learning for an examination, and learning for questions. They are learning questions instead of actually learning the subjects and educating themselves. And that's a challenge that I think the past questions, which were well intended, is breeding.
But what's different from this past questions? We've always, unless you didn't write exam in this country, we've seen past questions come and go. There are always photocopies of it. We've all gone through past questions, but I'm not sure, does somebody assure this batch in particular? Because some of them seem to be heavily reliant on the past questions.
When you are a student in school and you hear political discussions in the media, on social media, that the justification or the indicator of quality of the free senior high school program will be the result of the first batch. If you hear that discourse and you hear the overly extreme political attempts to try and use their results to justify or denigrate the policy and its efficiency on the quality scale, you are likely to become, in a way, relaxed, because you would think that if my performance means so much to the government in power, the government in power will do everything possible to ensure that I pass. Apart from that, if at the back of that context, the government in power or the Ghana Education Service, for the first time in its history, compiles past questions into textbooks and hands them over to every student preparing for the examination to use it to prepare, there is definitely, a psyche that will emerge from that action. And that is why I'm saying that even though we may have had access to past questions in times past, even though teachers may have used past questions to prepare students for examination in time past, what we experienced last year in September or so wasn't similar to this. This was a government decision to ensure that every finalist has a compendium of past questions put together in the form of a textbook. And so it was not just the ordinary past questions that you would go and procure yourself and review. And so it has had an effect on the learning of the students. And the thinking has been, I am tempted to believe, that there's something more to this pamphlet than just past questions. That's why the students were holding the document and then cursing the document. That the document is being the cause of their failure. And I don't think they are wrong. They are right, because they actually concentrated their preparation in those questions in the past questions that were compiled for them.
So who has failed them?
Well, as I mentioned, a policy decision meant to strengthen or enhance the quality of the preparation toward examination is looking as if it is actually causing them to be fixated on learning questions rather than learning the subjects. And so if it is established that on the account of the students' over-reliance on past questions given to them by government, they came to the examination room unprepared, as may be the case, and I'm sure it will be captured in the chief examiner's report, then it may mean that an administrative policy of the GES contributed significantly in ensuring that even though they wanted students to prepare adequately, it backfired and ended up constricting the scope of their preparation and then limiting them towards certain examination questions for which they may have not performed as expected.
Should the examination regulating body WAEC be concerned about this?
Well, WAEC hasn't any policy that bars students and teachers from using their past questions to prepare their students. Actually, in addition to past questions, people actually assess examiners' reports and also the marking scheme. All these are available to enable you shape your students ahead of examination. And so, as an examiner, as an assessment body, they are normally concerned about how students are prepared to sit for the examination, and then also the professionalism that occasions the writing of their papers, during the examination. And so I don't think this is a matter for WAEC. For WAEC, they may be concerned that teachers are limiting students or teachers are supporting students to focus on the past questions. And so I will ask teachers to, between now, the examination have just started. It will end on 5th September. Teachers will have to concentrate more on trying to expand the scope of the learning of students and then try to use this case study to convince the students that what they have there are just past questions. There are no questions that government has any idea of whether they are coming or not. And it's not government's business to give them questions to pass. The government's business is to create an environment for them to learn and pass. And so they should not focus their learning on the past questions, but then focus their learning on how to answer questions. Not those past questions, but how to answer questions in the next 5 weeks of the examination that we are here to cross.
I'm tempted to ask. Yeah, I'm sure that
it should, migrate the mindset of the student from the fixation towards the questions in that document to a more broader learning process where they will focus their energy on approaches in answering questions than the answering of specific questions that are contained in that pamphlet or textbook.
I'm sure you've also been following what's been unfolding at the Twinebwa secondary school in the Ashanti region, with students protesting because they thought the headmaster was strict on them with the examination. But we've also heard how at least a student wanted to visit the washroom and was not allowed, resulting in that student urinating on herself in the examination. How is the invigilation supposed to be like? Are students justifying in saying that a headmaster, for instance, is strict?
I think those comments are manifestations of the indiscipline on our campuses. The indiscipline on our campuses have gone from bad to worse. Since the free senior school was introduced, we have seen students have felt were pampered, and most teachers, have suffered for certain actions that, they should have been reprimanded for. If you look at the issue that happened at KNUST, teachers were interdicted for doing exactly what the genius asked them to do when there's a suspected case of COVID. They called the district COVID-19 number. That's what they told them to do. The school had no sick bay, no nurse. It's not the fault of the teacher, But when someone died in that process, then to please or to appease the students who agitated, then you interdict the headmistress and the teachers. It's not right. When such actions are seen to be taken by authorities, in support of students, you embolden students to be more indisciplined, because the action, what took place at Twinebwa Akodia, is totally unacceptable. The headmaster has a duty to ensure that examination takes place according to the rules and regulations of WAEC. And so if WAEC is saying that you have to distance the students, no talking, you cannot take any foreign material inside, these are fundamentals that the headmaster is enforcing. And don't forget that the headmaster is not the chief invigilator in the room. WAEC sends their invigilators to the room to invigilate. And so the headmaster cannot be blamed for not allowing you to do what you're supposed to do. He is supposed to ensure that you do what WAEC says you do. and don't do what WAEC says, don't do, so that his school will not be cited for a case of malpractice, which will go against his credibility and the school's credibility.
It's interesting.
The headmaster has no right, or no teacher has any right, to prevent any child from visiting the washroom during examination. It is not part of the rules of WAEC to prevent people from visiting the washroom. In most instances, you have cases where invigilators will accompany you, or they will be monitoring your movements as you move out to the washroom. But there is no rule that prevents or that emboldens invigilators or headmasters or teachers from allowing students to visit the washroom when there's an examination. That if that really happened, we will expect the chief examiner, the report of that school, to capture that situation. It shouldn't happen at all. It is not proper.
We also have on record my colleague in Kumasi who followed up on this story, Nanaya Ojima, also engaged one of the students who said, well, whilst they were protesting, other students were writing. So they got the opportunity to see the paper and they solved it before they started their exam. So this 2.5-hour paper, they used about an hour and a half to finish it. This is a student's confession, even though it's on the basis of anonymity. What should happen going forward?
Well, going forward, as I mentioned, the teachers have a key role to play in this. The teachers will have to cite the students up and let them understand that those past questions that were saved to them by the genius are not questions that will come. In fact, it will never happen that they will even emerge. It will never happen.
Oh, but at least you'll see one Pasco in the, they might repeat a certain question. It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. But when teachers are teaching you preparation for examination, they will always tell you that we are teaching you how to approach solving examination questions, and not necessarily how to approach solving these questions that you are seeing before you. The whole idea of using past questions to teach the students to ensure that the students have a feel of what the questions look like and the approach that the examiners expect the students to adapt in answering them. And that's why it always comes with the marking scheme and then the chief examiner's report. And so if that contextual understanding of past questions is not appreciated fully by the students, and the students see the past questions as possible questions that will come or questions that may come, then the students are being misled. Then the past questions are rather becoming an instrument of diversion of study, of the attention of study, than an instrument that should aid them in their study. And so please, teachers, you are the only ones who can help the students as at now. The past questions have already been procured for them by government since last year, September. It's been with them for a long time. During the pandemic, they took them home, and all they had with them was these questions. And so we know they've learned it into two. But teachers, since you are the ones who can interface with the students on a daily basis between now and September 5, when the exams will end, the only thing you can do is to try and convince the students and let them appreciate that. Using the case study of the first integrated science paper, these questions are not questions. They are not even probable questions. They are only prototypes of what the structure of a question may appear like. And so focus on the approach in answering the questions and not the questions themselves, because the questions will not appear in any paper. Not when the issue has become a political or a politicized subject matter. A very, very unfortunate one. When you have the results of an impending examination so politicized, the students themselves either feel nervous or they feel very, very laxic, that they know that whatever the case, everything will be done to ensure that they pass.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate that we have politicized the outcome. I keep saying that there's no scientific basis for comparing the result of WASSCE 2020 to the result of WASSCE 2010. It doesn't make any scientific sense. It doesn't make any education policy sense. It only makes for propaganda political sense, in the sense that the two papers will come with different stress levels. You cannot assess them over time. Examination comes with different stress levels. Secondly, the environment within which the examinations are being written are different. One is being written in a pandemic situation. The other was written in a no pandemic situation. And also, apart from that, the marking scheme to a higher extent depends on the performance, general performance. If the general performance is low, you may get an A with 70. If the general performance is high, you may not get an A with 80. And so there is no basis for comparing results over time, whether it's WASSCE or BEC.
Yeah.
So the politicians should lead the students to focus on their education, learn and then pass, and then stop the discussions and then the discussions around the extent to which the result of the first batch of the WASSCE Free Senior School students will be the denominator of quality, of that program. That discussion should cease immediately. Our children are the receiving end of it, and it will not benefit them in any way.
Brilliant analysis there you make. Unfortunately, it's an election year. We just got a few months. And so the outcome of this examination will certainly matter to the politician. We're grateful for your time, though. Kofi Asare is Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. Thank you very much for your time on this conversation. Let's switch now and go to the Institute for Education Studies, where Peter Anti is joining with his own perspective of what's been unfolding as well. Mr. Anti, good morning. If you can hear me, thank you for your time. Okay. Peter Anti? Well, we'll get his perspective on this matter. In the meantime, maybe just some 5 minutes. Let's get talking, because we've all been witnesses to what's been happening. So you can give me a quick call on 0302-211-6910, 0302-211-6910. What do you think about this matter that's unfolding? Do you have a child who's writing this examination? Kofi Asare has shared a lot. If your child is dependent on the past questions because it was given to them and they've solved all the questions, how do you in turn change in their mindset, telling them that it's your approach to the examination, not necessarily the questions in the past, that booklet that's been given to you that you see in the examination hall? If you're parents, would love to hear from you, so you can give us a call on 0302-211-6910 on this unfolding matter. John is joining us. Good morning, John. Hello, John.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, John. John, where are you calling us from?
Yeah, from Cape Coast.
Okay, great. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's unfortunate this thing has happened. But I'll just link it up to the this agitation is caused by the politician. Because as usual, normally when you are going to write exams, we don't have this tense atmosphere. Now the government in power is now trying to prove a point that this is this is going to serve as a catalyst, or is going to serve as a basis of the free education implementation if the student passes. And opposition will also want to use it as that because the free education lack quality, children were not able to pass. So I'm not sure. NDC might have now also set up a committee to investigate if any appeal comes, they will be it. So it is going to affect the children. How on earth do you come and compile past questions for students to learn? How on earth the president will have to come out and say that the end of the exam is going to justify whether the free education is quality or poor? Me, I'm not even convinced. What I'm seeing is, even after the exams, the marking scheme alone will determine whether the children will pass or not. So whether the children should come down, because for this one free education, I tell you, they are going to use it to prove a point, and the children will pass. Even if they are not able to write, at the end of the marking scheme, they will still pass.
Okay,
so they should come down.
That's an allegation because to be fair, John, WAEC is not government, so let's not get in there. I see the point that you're trying to make. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, John. Let's go to Benjamin. Benjamin Techi is in Brekum. Benjamin, good morning.
Good morning, Mamazi.
Good morning, Benjamin. You're good?
By the grace of God, I'm fine.
Nice.
I would like to also come in and put my input across.
Oh, please do. We appreciate it. Let's hear you.
Very good. It's like, Mamazi, my problem is that what was the reason of the compilation of the questions? Because talking about the free senior high or this type of people, their section was different from the other people, those that have already been written, they are exempt. So I see no reason why the government of the day or the Minister of Education, and that, for that matter, GS will come out with set questions, give it to them so that they will solve them. What was the reason? Because all along, it's a matter of learning to write exams and also get the general overview of education, not purposely for examination purpose. So, in fact, I see that it's very unfortunate. And then, talking about what is happening, about the kids going rampage here and there, destroying things here and there, talking bad about the president himself, talking about that of their headmasters and the invigilators and them. I think it is as a result of the so-called third right. Because how on earth will a candidate tell the invigilators and the headmaster that, why do you have to be so strict on us? You did not allow us to teach. It's very unfortunate. Where are we heading to, Mama V?
All right.
I don't think we are safe, because it's very unfortunate, and this is it talks of the recalcitrant nature of the students we are producing these days, and we have to be very, very careful. Else, I don't know, because it shouldn't be, and we have to condemn the act, and those things must also be punished. But you know what? These days, it looks as if nobody should punish a student. You can't do anything. So what they are doing is as a result of a third right issue. You can't talk about it. You can't cane them. You can't punish them. You can't do anything. And look at what is happening. No more students are coming out with such, with my words, silly statements about our
Benjamin, I feel your sentiment. You're a parent. I feel the anger. Just to say that, you know, the fact that a child has rights doesn't mean that they can be indisciplined. So I wish to state that we can distinguish the two. But I feel the point that you're making. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, let's move to Collins. Collins is joining us from Donkokrom. Collins, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, Collins, let's hear you.
All right, thank you very much. As Mr. Asare, the Executive Director, rightly said, you see, what is happening is as a result of what is happening in school. Indiscipline level has increased because of right.
Oh, you also hold that belief, eh?
Sorry?
I was just asking if you also hold that belief. You don't think that the rights is distinguished from indiscipline? The two can't go together.
Yes, it can go together, but we are not, how do you call it? We are not doing it well. Because if we did the right and still we do on discipline, I believe this wouldn't be happening. And for the compilation of the questions, as the man rightly said, it's one, limit students from learning. And then also on the part of the government, they were just trying to help them so that for the stay at home because of this COVID-19 cases, they would get something to do, or they would, how do you call it, the learning would run fast. But nobody knows why it is happening this way. So as a parent, we should also be talking to our children, not teachers alone. The man was saying that teachers have the upper hand on students, but here is the case, these students don't give any respect to teachers. Parents should also come, it should be, all of us are concerned that our children are, one, well-disciplined in all aspects, and two, take simple instructions. When you get to classroom, you would realize that students don't take simple instructions. Sit here, he said, I want to day. Stand here, he said, I want to day. So it goes back to all of us. They are our children, and this is our future. So if we can bring them up well, I believe in the next 10 years, we would not see things that we are seeing now.
All right.
If we should not do our part as parents and teachers and as government, believe me, in the next 10 years, what is happening will be worse.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Collins. Let's talk to Michael, my last caller. Good morning, Michael. Hello, Michael.
Yes, Mama V, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Please, you're on air. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I just want to contribute to the program. I think what's happening in the secondary schools is just unfortunate. We have students, like my counterparts mentioned, that you cannot discipline them. Now, you see what is happening, we are aware that some of these headmasters have been threatened and they've been asked to allow the children to pass at all costs. You see memos And then just even hearing what the president is saying, calling the students Akufo-Addo graduates. All these things the children have in their minds that they are going to pass. So if you overpamper these children, this is what we are going to get. If teachers will be intimidated because they are following the rules and regulations, then it means that we allow them or we teach them revolutionary ideas. Is that what the country will want to go? It's just unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate that this morning we are waking up and then hearing teachers being heckled for trying to ensure discipline. And if you go to the WAEC regulations, 30 minutes into the paper, you can't go out. And 30 minutes to the end of the paper, you can't go out. And so if a teacher is given all this and then he follows that, I don't see why he should be punished. But the headmaster slapping a teacher, he's only lucky that he's doing that over there. It cannot happen in certain schools. It's unfortunate.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you all for contributing to this very important subject. And of course, if you have a child writing the exam, we hope that this conversation has opened up your mind a bit about what to do to help that child going forward so that they are not overly dependent on that past questions. But let's move on to some other issues. 115,000 jobs lost within the COVID period. These, among others, are some big findings the Ghana Statistical Service has been revealing in its recent surveys. Roland Walker has been interacting with government statistician Professor Samuel Enin. That conversation comes right now.
COVID-19 has had serious impact not only in Ghana but also elsewhere around the world. Now, there's every indication that data is very important in the way that we plan. And the foremost institution that is in charge of collecting data is the Statistical Service of Ghana. Now, the Ghana Statistical Service has been doing a number of actions, collecting data in what it calls waves of trackers. Now, these trackers are being published, and it is indicative for all of us to know that over 85,000 family or household businesses have since closed down, not recovered or reopened, even post-lockdown restrictive periods. What does it mean? That is why we're here, to speak to the government statistician today. So we want to speak to the government statistician. Professor Samuel has great experience in his field. And it's for this reason, that's why he was definitely appointed. Of course, for a man who looks at numbers, has his people deployed to the field to do some great analysis, well, the analysis done by the Ghana Statistical Service, especially within this period of coronavirus and its effects on the economy and various subsectors, will become very topical when we're having the discussion. I have to say, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Roland.
And nice having you. The last time you were in my studio, you had promised that we'll have the census.
Indeed.
Right. You've thrown the timeline away.
I wouldn't say we've thrown the timeline away. With certainty, Ghana would not miss out on the 2020 round of population and housing census. We are yet to make a determination on the date because it has to take into consideration quite a number of factors. And as you know, we have the National Steering Committee for the Census, which is chaired by the Minister for Finance. So we're hoping to have our next meeting next week and a determination will be made. But we needed to postpone it as the pandemic evolved and also because we had quite a number of national events, i.e. the voters registration exercise coming up, and also the fact that the census operations would have to be done during a period that the country is relatively stable in terms of minimal movement. So taking into consideration all the national programs that have been earmarked for the rest of the year, our proposal is we make a consideration for sometime early next year for the census.
How badly has coronavirus affected the various subsectors of our economy?
For now, we need to look at it from different perspectives. I would hesitate in giving a summary response to that because, as you know, GSS has rolled out 3 different trackers: the household, the business, and the local economy tracker.
And within each of these trackers, you need to think about the dimensions or pathways that firms, businesses have been affected and households have also been affected. So once we get into the details and we start picking on them, I'll show you how the different sectors have responded to COVID-19.
Just going through your business tracker that was just released, and it gave me an insight into the number of jobs that had been lost, but more so even the numbers, in excess of over 700,000 people who are employed but have had to get truncations or cuts in wages. Very excessive.
So you'd appreciate this better if you look at it from the perspective of businesses that had to close down as a result of COVID-19. So from our tracker, we asked businesses whether they've closed down temporarily or they've closed down permanently. And from the survey, we realized that 33,000 businesses had to close down during the partial lockdown period. And also this number affected different sizes of businesses moving forward. If you put together the proportion or the numbers for that matter that closed down temporarily and those that closed down permanently, we are talking about 85,000 businesses that are still closed down. As we speak, we have 85,000 businesses that have still closed down. So over the period of the lockdown and post the lockdown period, we've had about 115 businesses that have closed down. So this is what is culminating into the effect of the number of workers within these businesses that have had to have had a cut in their pay.
And that definitely would mean that some sectors will be more affected than the others. The last time I was having some conversation with the TUC, they were very particular, very poignant, and saying that the hospitality industry seemed to be the most affected. Is that what you found also in your survey?
Indeed, that is what we found out, and the accommodation and food subsector, because of the hypothesis that they were going to be the most hit by the pandemic, we isolated that subsector, and they experienced a 57% dip in their sales. And also from the perspective of workers that had to be laid off and those that had a cut in their wages, it was still the accommodation and food subsector that was hit the hardest.
There was an interesting point about how some of these businesses perhaps could have diversified. Did we try to take a look at whether these shareholders or those who were running these businesses had that in mind?
Yes, I mean, it wasn't to the extent that we were expecting, because from the survey we realized that just about 1 in every 10 businesses adopted the use of technology, and even for that matter, mobile money transactions to minimize the effect of the social distancing, the physical distancing on their operations. And one was expecting that a greater number of businesses would have gone digital so that they could still go on with their services. And this is one area moving forward we think policymakers should emphasize in terms of how do you make computers and internet services available to businesses at a certain affordable cost so that they can diversify as we have to now deal with the pandemic.
I know that it's very important for us to take a look at it from services, but also that those who always were pegging what their output or returns were in financial quantum. But I was a bit surprised when within the period per what you release, there was indication that education institutions were also mostly affected by closures. And I'm thinking many educational institutions were mainly not for-profit institutions, so to speak.
I mean, you need to look at it from the perspective of the output of the business. So if you are interested in the employment of the business, then definitely the educational sector is employing people. And for the sake of COVID-19 and the closures of the schools, people working in the educational sector have had to stay at home because of the closures on the school. So it depends on the variable that you are using to measure the performance of a particular business. In this particular instance, we use 2 variables, which is the sales and the employment. So the effect of business closures on education from an employment perspective was clear.
On the ground, you get to find that for those that lost their jobs, within the period of the lockdown, partial lockdown, have not been able to redeem their jobs back, even though the services or the sectors that they worked in seem to have resumed either fully or partially. And there's this finding. It said 41,952 workers lost their jobs during the partial lockdown. So my question is, we're going to have many of these people not returning back to work, but it's because the business owners have to take business decisions. Is that what you found out of anything?
So essentially these people, that is the 41,952, have been laid off as a result of COVID-19. And that is why we have decided to follow this same cohort of businesses for at least 3 times before the year runs out, to really see what is going to happen, given that interventions are being put in place. Once the president of the government, for that matter, has decided to inject 600 million Ghana cedi stimulus to ensure that businesses stay in business, it's important to see whether these interventions would enable some businesses that had to lay off workers to have some packages for them as they start their operations. But indeed, if the businesses that have permanently closed down, and for that matter do not come back, and you find yourself with one of these businesses, then it means you'd have to deal with the unemployment that you find yourself in.
Now, this is just one aspect of the 3 type of actions and activities you decided to undertake. The one that really looked at the, I would call it the human index aspect in terms of jobs, health access, educational, and all that, effect on household incomes. If you look at the section on health and the indication that we had people who needed to access health services. Either maybe they have new infants, would have to get access to immunization services, etc., but were afraid to get access. It means something went wrong. What may have gotten wrong there?
I think it's the dimension of COVID-19 that we all should appreciate how households or even institutions were responding to it. And as I indicated, it comes with a lot of uncertainty because nobody knows when it's going to abate. Nobody knows the different dimensions that it's going to take. So indeed, we had 35% of children that missed out on their vaccination. And when we probed to find out why they missed out on their vaccination, that is about 3 in every 10 children, we had 3 responses in relation to COVID-19. The category that said that I wouldn't go because if I go, I'm going to be infected. And this is something from the household, the parent point of view. So this is more or less a self-exclusion from vaccination.
And that's one point.
That is one point. The other point is when we had the health facilities closing down for some of these. So the health facilities excluded parents, children for coming for vaccination. And the third category are those that were unable to go because of the restrictions on mobility. Once there were some restrictions on transportation, fares had gone up and so on and so forth, it also excluded some parents from taking their children for vaccination.
But maybe we could have done something, either at the community level or the state level, try to draw them into giving them a number of behavioral change communication actions.
So this is exactly what we are trying to get from our third tracker, which is the local economy tracker. So the first 2 has dealt with the government and the people, the government and businesses. But moving forward, we should begin to think about, as you rightly said, how communities that have different experiences with how COVID-19 is evolving would prepare themselves to cope with the pandemic, but more importantly, how they're going to be resilient moving forward. Because we should all know that different economies, local economies, do not have the same strength, the same opportunities. So there should be that consciousness on the part of local community leaders on how they can deal with their peculiarities as far as COVID-19 ramification is concerned.
So when I was going through all these tracker reports, survey reports that you were bringing, one thing was on my mind. It looked like as a country we're not ready for anything pandemic. On the scale that we've witnessed this. Of course, we can say that no country has ever been.
Again, as a statistician, I would be hesitant in making statements like we are not ready. But as I said earlier on, clearly the pandemic, although globally, has brought about or has exposed our lack of knowledge. Some other countries had buffers than others. So if we're thinking about the number of ventilators that we have, if we do a comparison across different countries, you'll find where we find ourselves as a country. And given that we had to go in to think about what health facilities we need to get, so we have more or less gone by this in a very reactionary way rather than the ideal way of being proactive about it.
How many households did you sample in the first tracker?
In the first tracker, we targeted close to 5,000 households, but we ended up with 3,256 households.
When you undertook this sort of investigation, or let's say collecting data, so to speak, what was the one thing that struck you about inaccess, inequality in relation to the various human index of variables?
So essentially, we looked at this from the human development point of view. That was the key driver. And once you talk about the human development index, you're thinking about the education, the standard of living, and issues related to health. That is why our first tracker focused on these three areas. And what we realized from my point of view is how this is impacting on children from diverse perspectives. So it wasn't only the issue of vaccination that hits me, but the issue of how children are now living with their parents in their respective homes and the challenges that are coming with it. And also from the educational side, the fact that close to 35% of JHS and primary pupils had not engaged in any form of learning during this period of lockdown. And the question that I ask myself as an academic is, can we really have interventions that will sort of bridge the gap that is going to happen when we return to normalcy? Because you're going to have this 35% of children that would not have done anything for the past 6 months, for the past 8 months, and they're going to sit in class with their colleagues who would have had access to either self-tutoring or some parents doing tutoring or an external person doing tutoring. Within the schools, would we have programs for catch-ups? So we really need to do a profiling on the diversity of impact at different levels as we think about the recovery pathways.
Now this 35% across the demographics countrywide, where are they dotted?
I have not paid particular attention to that. It's something that, as I indicated during the release, we said this is the first edition, and we foresee at least doing releases every other week. And we're going to have one of the releases that is going to focus strictly on children from different perspectives. And we would be able to tell you the geographical distribution of these 35%.
Because I ask this question because, one, I'm a parent. And I also do know that the other means of complementary education that we have experienced for our children, indeed even for adults in tertiary institutions over the last 3-4 months, has been using the internet. And the internet is not broadly deployed across our country. And so definitely that will influence that 35% that don't have the access.
Yes, I do agree with you that there are some macro factors, as you rightly said, that would influence the non-use of internet services. But still within the domain of responses from households and individuals, there could have been that consciousness to see how we can mitigate that macro effect of not having internet services broadly deployed over the country. For me, the main question is, of the 35%, were the parents aware that they had to do something like that? Yes, when we probed, they said, or the responses that we got were related to computers and lack of internet access. But if that is a macro level challenge within the household, what attempts are you making? Especially when you know that they are going to go back and sit with this 65% that have internet access and computers.
There's the wider aspect of access that perhaps maybe as a people we haven't talked about. That is having the systems in place post-COVID. Is there something statistically we can do to make sure that we evenly try to bridge the gap or spread access, knowing that within COVID, these were the gaps that we noticed?
So let me proceed by saying that it's important we give a broader definition to access, because it's sometimes confusing, because access could be looked at a minimum of 3 or 4 different levels. I mean, the basic one that we think about is whether the facility is available and whether the facility is affordable. Then we are quick in saying that if it's availability, should it be provided by the public sector or the private sector, and if it's affordable, it's an issue related to affordability, then is the cost related to it. But within this is the scope of issues related to convenience and issues related to flexibility of getting access to the particular service. And this is where we need to begin to think about, yes, we can make it available, but getting it goes through some challenges and makes it very inconveniencing for households to get access to them. So moving forward, and as we do at Ghana Statistical Service during censuses, we ask a number of questions related to services and try to get a sense of, one, the distance or the time that it takes in accessing the facility, and whether it's within a certain permissible geographical area that would lead to convenience and that will lead to flexibility. The other thing is quite a number of services facilities are sort of snapshot, in the sense that they come in at a particular point in time and the next minute when you need it is not available. And that is an element of continuity that we need to think about when it comes to accessibility. So access, as I indicated during the release, moving forward, we're going to emphasize on the quality of access, where we're going to touch on issues related to convenience, continuity, and flexibility to get a better understanding of what we mean by access.
Nationally, more than 3/4, that comprising of some 77.4% of households, they did report that the total household income had reduced since March 16, 2020. And 3.1% also reported an increase in their income. And so that's very pale compared to the 77%. This that you picked from the population, did they give you an indication as to who is poor and who is not poor?
Yes.
Who falls within the certain brackets?
Moving forward, we're going to estimate the proportion of poor people and the non-poor people in our subsequent waves. But Roland, thank you for bringing this issue up, because we need to have clarity on the reporting on the total number of people or households that were affected by pay cuts. So as you rightly mentioned, 77% of households reported that they experienced a reduction in their pay. Then we extrapolated to the population in terms of persons. Then we said, of the 77% of households, using an average household size of 4 persons per house, it translates into 22 million persons who will be affected by the reduction in pay. It is not 22 million people who experienced a reduction in pay. So what that means is that if in my household I have a pay cut and I have a 5-member household, all the 5 of us in the household would be affected by the pay cut. But indeed, it's only one person who has experienced a pay cut. So 22 million will be affected by a reduction in pay cut, not 22 million people who experienced a pay cut, but they live in households that has at least one person that has experienced a pay cut. So in terms of how this will translate into the measurement of poor and non-poor persons, this is exactly what we are going to do in our subsequent waves. We are not doing it this time because the effect of COVID-19 has brought about anxiety in terms of spending, reprioritizing one scale of preference, and so on. So if you do this in the second wave and in the third wave, we'll be able to see those that are now poor simply because of the shock associated with COVID-19, and those that would move up the poverty line when they get the right interventions or when they find means of accommodating with the challenges with COVID-19. I must indicate that on the heels of the release of the Household Job Tracker, we had released the Multidimensional Poor Index, which also was revealing to a very large extent because it was our maiden multidimensional poverty report. And prior to that, we had focused on the consumption expenditure, the money metric approach in measuring poverty. And moving forward, we feel that this is what gives policymakers a direct tool to work with, because now we are able to tell you that this is what is happening in the area of nutrition, this is what is happening in the area of school attendance, this is what is happening in the area of sanitation.
Now, prior to COVID, what was the situation like in relation to the haves and haves not?
So there are two things. I mean, the situation was that we had 23.4% of our population who were poor, that is using the upper poverty line as the cutoff. And the other side, in terms of the haves and not haves, is the issue of inequality in Ghana consistently being on ascendancy. So since we started rolling out the Living Standards Survey in the late 80s, we've seen our inequality figures, that is the Gini coefficient, hovering around 0.4, 0.41, and 0.42. So the increases are not that significant, but we've not been able to address inequality fully.
And I was reading a literature the other day, and it did indicate that we're going to have a sizable number of the demographics of the population in developing countries, and particularly there was a mention of Africa, who are going to see categories of their population moving into extreme poverty levels. That also should include Ghana. Whilst you don't want to conjecture, of course.
Yes. I wouldn't be that pessimistic and say that it would include Ghana, but I'll be quick to say that if we are not circumspect about how we want to contain COVID-19, it might end up that way. So the issue really is how to contain it. And when I talk about containment, emphasis is on whether there are recovery programs or not, but more importantly, how these recovery programs are rolled out in terms of targeting. If we have, for instance, the stimulus and it ends up in businesses or with businesses that do not really need the interventions, it will not yield the needed results.
And that's Roland Walker's conversation with government statistician Professor Samoa Kobna Enim, right there for you here on the show. And that's your talk. Stay with us. We will go roving with Nancy Emefa Gyiradosi. She's visiting Awoshie. Remember yesterday there was a demonstration because of faulty traffic lights. How does it look the morning after? We'll be back after this. You're still watching the AM show. Let's go roving now. Let's join my colleague Nancy Emefa Gyiradosi, roving from Awoshie, following up on the traffic light situation there. Over to you, Nancy.
At a standstill for one reason, because they were fed up and tired about the needless deaths that have occurred on the stretch because of the faulty traffic lights. Today, 24 hours after this demonstration, it appears nothing has changed. From the junction from where we came from to where we are standing, nothing has happened. We've been here for close to 30 minutes and we see cars flying, going speed, with people waiting patiently for no car to show up before they cross the road. I've been speaking to quite a number of people even before we got here, and they tell us that they're generally tired, but they're going to continue with the demonstration in the coming week because they've been given 1 week ultimatum for this to be fixed. But when I came here, I met quite a number of residents who are very unhappy with the situation. I see that some gentlemen want to speak to. Let me just find out from them. They have been here for years. I want to ask them, how many years they have been here and how bad the situation is. We'll get to speak to the preacher because we've seen that several times he had to stand, cross the road and stop vehicles so that people and pedestrians can cross the road. But let me speak to the two gentlemen. Mr. Say, and now, how many years and now, what's my area has say?
Oh, my turn about 15 years in it.
15 years?
Yes.
Now, a car, traffic lights, we must say very faulty, and
traffic light radio, since some year, Quano. No, not on my bay, no more, not a sanko off. But we know a call off Kakrama, I'm saying, in the pay you work, a Dawson. na me mfa nhyɛ sɛ bia ebia baba ko pɛ na aba na saa because start here kwan and saa de start wo mu a na kɔ off wo mu a na ba on enti ɛsrɛ mo sɛ we dey say the ade na koso no ekum go for rough because me ankasa me chocho mu cho ba me ansa bi a ka bɔ mo no aye ma roho pa ye no abako koso de na kyese de na eboro so na ma be si sa kwan no nti say mpanimfo ne say omo me yemaye omo yemaye ebeboa ye nyina na aboa Ghana man so de me catch up.
So basically what he's saying is that he's been here for 15 years. These incidents have been happening over the years, and it's not new. And so he will not want to put the blame on one government, but it's been happening for several times. And so simply he's just saying that the people of Awoshi are tired and they are fed up with the situation. And yesterday's demonstration is to prove that they've had enough, because he says that almost every week a car has to knock somebody, and they have to. He knows 3 or 4 people who fell victim or have been knocked down by a car. Some of them have died and some of them have also survived. Now, we're not for na kanebo mono. Go for na with him omo to say omo catch the see.
Omo mucho mono. Dodo na omo choma because of ebia. Ada say light ni keso ene begina enko betimi across kwa na fan. But ada say light ni so niti no. Ebia ochoma na one ka na kushia na ka na ide akobon because light ni so a ebia enka betimi afi ban ba bia ono ogina no ama na cross enu tine man ide man ban san yesom so me light ni mai titia enye boni bia.
Well, so he is still making the same appeal. He says that his 3 or 4 friends who fell victim on the stretch of the road, it happened because the traffic light wasn't working, and they had to cross the road and eventually got knocked down by cars. And so he's saying that the problem can be fixed. It can be fixed right when these traffic lights are fixed. And so that's all he's pleading. But I have with me Mr. Wachefra Osei.
Yeah, Wachefra Osei.
Mr. Osei. And so how many years in Watson area?
Masa, we try area, we come here 35 years. In fact, said the million cano. And yeah, they are made by the mechanic be brace and I can say against time. Yes, and for some light in my. So also for me now done the police and then you so many police will be a bahano. If you just say we who's a police in the one was ada a ban critical sano. I don't mind the police for about just 24 so. Omra mesha my they go for who are too much. Yes, now
what is someone who's a car Bobby Wahada? What's it? What is one who's a car Bobby Wahada? I'm patrol you most a car Bobby Wahano. Get back on no chuma quadamami. Or the bonus a body cost to say my neighbor from Passa was already. In fact, I who can't say, make a say, cry, and you cry, Romy. I engineer, yes, 24 say, oh, no, no, Michelle light in my yes, Roma, the palm chopper. Mr. Bochako is speaking. He says he's been here for more than 25 years. Now, this is what he's saying. He has witnessed somebody being knocked down by a car on this particular stretch. He says what he saw still in his mind's eye, and he can actually picture what exactly happened. And the story is the same. He says that everything can be fixed on this road if the traffic lights are working. But until that happens, nothing will happen, because people will eventually still get knocked down by cars. I see a lady close to me. How's your name?
I'm Ojo Matilda, a KNUST student.
Okay. How long have you also been living here?
I've been living here for the past 18 years now. 18 years. Yes, please.
Tell me the situation on this stretch.
Okay, some years ago they came to fix the traffic lights actually, and all of a sudden it went off. It didn't work for long and it went off. So students and then people from around find it difficult crossing the road. Here lies the case. This is a high street where people move from Banyard to Popoase. And when the cars are coming, they just come with a full speed, irrespective of the people standing aside the road. So sometimes we, the people, we try to maneuver our way to cross the road. And in that case, some of the cars just knocked down people, and I think last 2 days or so we recorded 2 deaths around. People just died on the street. And I think the last Sunday when Akufo-Addo gave the speech, somewhere along Farm Oak Junction, a certain young girl like my age was knocked down by a car, and she just died at the spot.
That's a very sad narration there. We see a student of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology also narrating what residents have to go through with the knocking down of residents whenever they want to cross the road. Well, they've given governments 1 week ultimatum to fix the traffic light. That shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. Listen, we'll keep you updated on this situation. Stay with us. We've got show business coming your way right after this.